We have made it to week 18 here in year number 4 of the Denver Broncos franchise, and with a win today, the Broncos are headed back to the playoffs for a third straight year. It's convenient that we're facing off against the Cleveland Browns, the worst team in the NFL, and with a loss, they are set to clinch the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. But that doesn't mean we should take this game lightly. We have not been playing our best football as of recent. We've lost 3 of 4. We looked like a shoo-in to make the playoffs. We were in a good spot to potentially win the division. And after a loss against the Chiefs last week, we have fallen down to the number 5 seed with room to potentially drop lower if we lose today and things across the league do not go our way. We'll talk about some scenarios in a little bit, but first, let's briefly go over our loss last week at Arrowhead, 49-42 against the Chiefs. We scored 42 points and lost. That's inexcusable. Now, it wasn't a perfect game from the offense. Bo Nix made his fair share of mistakes. He turned the ball over 3 times, but it's hard to be too upset with him when Patrick Mahomes did this against our defense. And as we've talked about really for multiple years now, of course we have a very strong defense and they play like it for 12 or 13 games a year, but they also have some games where they look awful. They look like they've never played organized football in their lives, and this was one of those games, and we've had a few of those this year. The loss in Las Vegas, the loss against Detroit, the loss against the Jets, and now this game against Kansas City were some of the worst defensive performances I have ever seen in my life. The consistency on the defensive side of the ball has been a major problem for a while, and it's fitting that in today's prospect profile, we will be going over the entire defensive side of the ball, from the defensive line to the back end. It's certainly a talented defensive class from top to bottom. Some very strong position groups this year and some guys who could end up going very, very early who I'm excited to go over. Many of these players we've recently got to watch throughout the college football playoff in the Kansas dynasty, and we've seen some guys' stocks really go up. As we start with the defensive line, I like this D-line class. You have multiple guys projected in the top 10, good players in the interior. And as we look at our defensive line, it's a little weird because Nick Benito and Baron Browning are listed as linebackers, but they primarily play with their hands in the dirt. We have a very deep defensive line with guys like Mykel Williams and Aleem McNeil at the top, along with Browning and Benito. But I like the youth we have behind them. Mateo Uiagalelei and Damon Clowney have both given us some good flashes this year. Jack Sawyer acquired at the deadline as well. We have BJ Ojulari, who I like too. It never hurts to add more players up front, but given that we have high expectations long-term for guys like Clowney and Uiagalelei, it'd be a little bit surprising if the Broncos used an early pick on the defensive line, but it never hurts to add more pass rushers. As we look at the defensive tackles, you've got 2 surefire first-rounders, both of whom played each other in the national title game. Curtis Perry has had an outstanding season at the University of Alabama, highly productive pass rusher at double-digit sacks this year. He started his career at Virginia Tech before transferring for his final 2 seasons to Alabama, where he got better despite the increase of competition, not just in the SEC, but also in his own position room. Now, I do think he was a little underwhelming during the playoff, despite Alabama winning the national title, and there is one major red flag with him. He's super undersized, 6'2", maybe 270 pounds. Now, Aaron Donald was undersized, and it didn't cause him any issues, but not everybody can be Aaron Donald. I don't think Perry quite has the twitch and the bend to play edge. I don't think he has the size to hang in the interior, but he's a really good football player, and his production in the SEC alone should get him drafted highly. Marcus Deal from TCU is the real deal. We got to watch him in the playoff where he was extremely impressive. 6'5", a little over 315 pounds. You're looking at a traditional nose tackle with his build, but he offers a lot more as a pass rusher than you would expect. He reminds me so much of Vita Vea, who was drafted in the early teens of the first round. I would expect Deal ends up going around a similar range. As a sophomore and a junior, when TCU played against Kansas, he really popped. He was a game record despite not putting up the big numbers. And in the 3 playoff games for TCU, we finally saw the big numbers show up for him. He averaged 3 TFLs per game, and he totaled 2 sacks in the playoff, saving the best games of his career for last. He's an ascending player with the ideal size and run-stopping ability you look for in the nose, but he offers a lot more pass rushing than you would expect for somebody with his play style. Down the board, Rodney Laura from North Carolina, good player, productive pass rusher. Xavier McLeod, traditional run-stuffing nose tackle. Jasiah Peterson from Rutgers, I think he's underrated. He's really developed during his time with the Scarlet Knights. Samu Tamuampepe, 6'2", 380. Never really got on the field for Texas A&M until this last year, where he was actually pretty impressive. Showed some production as a pass rusher. And then deep down the board, I think there's a lot of talent with Alex January from Texas. Never lived up to his talent with the Longhorns, but I think he's a guy who could be a much better NFL player than he was college player. Now we move over to the edge rushers. We've got some good ones here at the top. Connor Letneski from Iowa is the heavy favorite to be the first non-quarterback off the board in this year's draft. Nobody knew who this guy was coming into the year, and then he recorded 21 sacks. He was the best pass rusher in the nation this year for an Iowa defense that had a lot of guys who could hunt the quarterback, but nobody as impressive as him. Along with the production, there's a lot of NFL traits. 6'4", 275, a variety of moves in his pass rushing toolbox. He can win with power and strength. He can win with finesse and twitch. He's a good run defender as well. He really checks off all the boxes, and it's unfortunate he got injured super early in the Rose Bowl against USC, because I would have loved to have watched a full game from him. He's just been so productive this year, and he has the NFL athleticism. He has the NFL traits. There's really not a question to him as a prospect, and there's a real chance he goes number 1 overall. Certainly a chance he's the first non-quarterback off the board. He is special, and he kind of overshadows our guy Dakias Brinkley a little bit, who's a very good prospect in his own right, and we saw him take over games in the college football playoff. Kind of similar to Curtis Perry, he's a little undersized. That's the question with him. Around 6'3", 240. I know he's 220 in the EA college football roster, but I can't manually edit the real player's weights, and obviously he would have gained weight since he was a true freshman at Kansas. You look at a guy who just knows how to get to the quarterback. He was so impressive as a freshman. Then he kind of struggled in the playoffs going up against real NFL tackles like Kelvin Banks, Josh Connerly, and Miles Hinton. And he never really found his groove again until this year as a senior. 7 TFLs and 5 sacks against Nevada, 4 TFLs and 2 sacks against Virginia Tech before being doubled the entire game against Alabama. Half a sack away from Jalen Ferguson's all-time FBS sack record as well. One of the most productive pass rushers in recent memory, and he belongs in the top 10. Chamberlain Campbell is definitely what I would describe as a physical outlier. 6'7", around 235 pounds. Again, I know it says 215 here in the game, but we have to assume he's going to gain some weight. He's kind of a one-trick pony in the sense that he relies on his quickness and his twitch off the edge, but it works. There's no offensive tackle in the SEC who can keep up with him, leading to double-digit sacks over each of the last 2 seasons. I think if he can win with power more, given that the offensive tackles in the NFL are more agile and more athletic, they're going to figure him out a little bit. But if we can see some more development with his overall pass rushing arsenal, he could be really good. In terms of the day 2 guys, I'd be willing to place a bet on a guy like David Stone from the University of Oklahoma, former 5-star recruit who really put it all together this year. 6'3", 285. He's got great size, extremely powerful, extremely physical. You can line him up anywhere on the defensive line and he'll be effective given his play strength along with his athleticism and quickness. It took him a little while to really get going. He was great as a freshman, wasn't really the same player after that, but then this year, 13.5 sacks, and that was with missing multiple games due to injury. I wish he was a little bit more consistent as a run defender, but I think his massive leap in development from last year to this year should show that he's really an ascending player who's just getting better. Kenneth Merriweather from Iowa, undersized but productive edge rusher, double-digit sacks in each of the last 2 years. So he's not a Connor Letneski merchant. He was really good last year before Letneski was even a starter. Elijah Rushing from Oregon is a good player. Andrew DePape actually has a twin brother in this class, William DePape. And the funny story about them is both of them started their careers at Indiana. They each entered the transfer portal the same year. Andrew went to Ohio State, while William went to Michigan. How ironic. Andrew DePape has fared a little bit better. I was really impressed with him in the playoff game against Mississippi State. He then got injured the following round against TCU with a torn pec. I'm curious to see if he'll be able to really work out through March into the Combine and Pro Day with the injury. Boubacar Traore, I feel like, is a real sleeper. He broke out onto the scene this year, 17 and a half sacks. I think that's second amongst all players in college football this year, only trailing Connor Litneski, but he's only projected to be a late third, early fourth round guy right now. Teams kind of see him as really only a third down type of edge rusher. He's not a very good run defender. He's more of a designated pass rusher. Now, he did a great job of that at Notre Dame, and if he gets half of his 17 sack total per season in the NFL, he's going to be more than worth the 100th pick in the draft. But teams want to know that this isn't just a flash in the pan for him and that he can be a more well-rounded player. Down the board, I like Marquise Lightfoot, really athletic out of Miami, just never really has put it together. Ezra Odinyar from UAB, high floor edge rusher who's going to be a good pro. Hunter Osborne from Alabama was impressive during the playoff. And then looking at left end, Armando Blunt from Miami is definitely a guy who NFL teams are going to want to bet on. The combination of size and production is not something you find every day. 6'2", 310 pounds. He's built like an interior defensive lineman, and he's definitely got the strength to play in the interior. He's built like an ox, maybe the strongest player in the draft. Excellent play strength up front. But he's got some twitch. He's got some bend off the edge. And over his career at Miami, it's been a little up and down, but he was his most consistent this year as a senior, finishing with 10 sacks and really productive as a run defender. Behind him, Jordan Allen from Kansas State. He's a guy where what you see is what you get. I don't know if you're ever looking at a number one pass rusher with him, but he's such a productive player. Other than Takaius Brinkley, there's no player in college football who has more active sacks than Jordan Allen. 4-year starter for the Wildcats, who's been a really, really good player for them since the second he stepped onto campus. He wins in a variety of different ways as a rusher, and you're getting a guy who's going to be able to contribute on day one. Easy front runner for the Defensive Rookie of the Year. 9 sacks this year, and he was at his best as a run defender. 11 and a half as a junior. Low number as a sophomore, but that's because he spent a large chunk of the year injured. Behind them, we've got Seth Jennings out of Kansas, a player who I've always been really high on. It's dope seeing guys that we've recruited blossom into NFL prospects, and even though Seth Jennings never really became the consistent, dominant edge rusher that I thought he was, he's still going to be a top 2-round pick because he is everything that NFL teams dream about, and I think his skill set could lead to him having a really high ceiling at the next level. Very impressive power, very good run defender. He's a little one-dimensional, though, as a pass rusher. That's kind of the concern with him. And he was never consistent as a pass rusher at Kansas, although he definitely had his best season this year as a junior, especially early in the year. I was a little disappointed, though, in the playoff. I felt like he wasn't that impressive with Takaius Brinkley taking over games. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. And that's been the story of Jennings' Kansas career. He's a good player. He's a really good NFL prospect. 3 years, and then he's gone after his junior year, but I wish there was more consistency with him. Cameron Brandt from Michigan, good player. He was a game wrecker when we played against them in the playoff last year. Colin Simmons, super twitched up edge rusher out of Texas, who probably should have declared for the draft after last year, stayed for his senior year, was kind of disappointing. As we move over to the linebacker position, I like this group a lot. There are some good off-ball guys, some intriguing edge rushers. And as we look at our linebacking core, of course, this is a big strength of our roster. Nick Benito and Baron Browning, we kind of already talked about. They're sort of edge hybrid linebackers. They certainly would classify as pass rushers, but then we have the dynamic duo in the middle with Jeffrey Bossa and Drew Sanders, who you can make the argument have been the two best players on our defense this year. Sanders, of course, is a free agent. He's currently playing on the franchise tag, and it kind of worked out for him that he didn't take our long-term extension because I think he's made himself some money this year. Drew Sanders is certainly worthy of an extension, but when we really look at things, next year we've got a lot of guys off the books, including Jeffrey Bossa. Does it make financial sense to be paying 2 off-ball linebackers big money? I don't know. These guys are really good players, but is it wise to pay both of them? And if we don't want to, we need to have a plan in case one of those guys ends up potentially leaving down the road. So we'll start in the outside and then work our way in since we're still talking about some edge rushers. And we'll start with Dylan Gooden out of Miami. He's not the biggest guy. He's not built like an edge rusher, He's sort of a hybrid linebacker, blitzer type. He's a really similar prospect to Jeffrey Bassa, ironically, coming out of Oregon a few years ago, in the sense that he came to Maryland as a cover linebacker, but they've used him as a chess piece, and a guy who's been one of, if not the best blitzers in the country over the last 3 years. And despite the fact that he's not that big, he still can manage offensive tackles because he's got a good array of pass rush moves. Now, you're not going to be a 220-pound edge rusher in the NFL. That just doesn't work. 31 sacks over 3 years is nice, but you cannot be that size and be a full-time edge rusher. So it's going to be a real innovative defensive coordinator that gets the most out of him and is able to use him in a variety of different ways, but it could be worth the risk in the first round, and he could become a Jeffrey Bassa type of player if he hits his ceiling. Looking at the day 2 guys, I want to talk about Tavion Bennett from Alabama. He's a little bit older, 24, but I think his age and maturity really showed up in the playoff where he was one of the best players on the field. I mean, he was awesome, and his draft stock certainly went up as a result of his playoff performance. He did not win the college football playoff MVP. That ended up going to his teammate in the secondary, Jalen Mbakwe, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. You could certainly make the argument, though, that Bennett should have won the award. He really put it all together this year as a pass rusher, 8.5 sacks. He had a great year defending the run with 15 TFLs. And then in the playoff, he had 4.5 sacks through 3 games. I mean, he was absolutely terrific. He was unblockable in the biggest games of the year for the Crimson Tide. I thought he was a little underwhelming in the regular season, but those 3 playoff games, man, was he impressive. Behind him, Cameron Fountain from USC, big, physical, productive edge rusher. Sergine Tuknara from Cal is a good player, another guy who can really get to the quarterback. And then looking at the day 3 crop, I definitely want to talk about Samuel Mpemba from Kansas. We got him through the transfer portal from Georgia a few years ago, and I feel like he's gotten better and better each year. And during the playoff, he was one of our best defensive players. Other than Takaius Brinkley and Damani Maxson, he was the best defensive player on the field for us. 6'3", around 250 pounds. He's more of an off-ball linebacker. He can rush a little bit. He's good as a blitzer. I think he's at his best as a run defender, though, and your best use of him will be as an early down, run-stopping linebacker. I think he's a good cover player as well. He doesn't have the ideal athletic traits, though. He's not slow, per se, but for the modern NFL linebacker, I would not call him fast either, and that's why he's probably going to go on day 3, is because he's not some freak athlete. But he's a highly productive player who's a good run defender, solid in coverage, and offers you upside as a blitzer. Behind him, Jordan Montgomery, Daniel Harris, 2 very productive pass rushers. Keon Keeley from Alabama, former 5-star recruit who never really put it together but is super talented. Tylen Singleton from LSU, he's undersized but he's a playmaker. And Darion Joulette from Texas, who has not played since week 3 of last year, not this season, but the year before with a torn Achilles. He should be finally good to go around the combine time. Right outside linebacker, it's not great. Couple of top 100 guys. Elijah Groves from NC State's a freak athlete with a lot of upside. Jeremiah Beasley from Missouri had 13 sacks last year, but was a lot worse this year. His stock ended up going down quite a bit. Kamal Bonner and Jaden Kimball are both smaller guys, safety linebacker hybrids who can really cover. And then looking at inside linebacker, I really like this group. There are some good players here. And if we want to replace either Drew Sanders or Jeffrey Bassa, we've got some good choices. Malik Bryant and Winston Berglund are the 2 players at the top, and they're both very different flavors. I think some teams are going to prefer one, and some teams are going to prefer the other. If you're looking for the extremely productive, high-floor guy, it's Malik Bryant. He's been the best off-ball linebacker in college football for multiple years now. He's the best tackler in the country. He's a really good run defender, really good cover player, and he has some untapped potential because he is a really impressive athlete. It's not like he's slow and lethargic out there. 124 tackles this year, was lower this year because Miami played less games. But a highly instinctive player who knows how to find the football, pretty solid in coverage, pretty solid in run defense, team leader, team captain. He's a culture guy, and I think teams are going to like that. As for Winston Berglund, it's more of a projection. He's been a good player at Purdue, and I think he'll be a pretty good player early on in the NFL, but I wouldn't say he's anywhere near as polished as, say, Malik Bryant. The thing with Berglund is that he's an absolute freak show. He is going to tear up the combine. And if he gets elevated into the first round because some team wants to take on the athletic traits, I would totally understand it. And if the stars align with him, he could be one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's got a lot to work on. He's not a great run defender yet. Little inconsistent, but pretty good in coverage. He has what you can't teach, though. I think he's got pretty good football instincts, knows how to find the ball. He's a playmaker with the turnovers, good ball skills, and again, the athleticism off the charts. He might be the biggest freak of nature, regardless of position, in this entire draft. After them, I think it's a deep group, which kind of pushes everyone down the board, but in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, you're getting values with these guys. Jared Johnson from Alabama, he's a solid player. Tristan Jernigan from Texas A&M. I think he's the best pure cover linebacker in this draft. He's a guy who you're going to trust on 3rd down because in zone, he knows where he needs to be. He's instinctive around the football. In man coverage, he can hang with tight ends. I think he's got the athleticism to manage with slot receivers as well. He certainly does not have the athleticism as, say, Malik Bryant, and definitely not Winston Berglund, which pushes him into day 2. But in terms of his production, it's really not much worse than those guys. He's a walking turnover. He was responsible for 5 this year at Texas A&M. So he has the splash plays, but he's consistent in coverage as well. Kingston Viliamu-Asa from Notre Dame, highly productive player. I thought he was one of their best defenders in the playoff last year, but he was kind of underwhelming this year as a senior. Horn from Texas Tech, 6 interceptions this year. Justin Horn's a real playmaker. Jaleel Brommel from Illinois, first-year starter. Really, really good. He's going to declare early, I think. Isaiah Chisholm, 4-year guy. Started his career at Oregon State, spent the last 3 years at Arizona, where he's been one of the best defensive players in the Big 12. Let's move over to the secondary. I don't know if it's a particularly top-heavy group, only 4 projected first-rounders, but it is deep. And in terms of ratings, the secondary has some of the best players on our team, but I feel like the secondary at times this year was inconsistent. Patrick Surtain, of course, is really good. Very good covered player, and the ball skills have really improved for him. He's had his fair share of losses this year. He really has struggled against Devontae Smith against the Raiders, but for the most part, he's been an all-pro. Colin Wright, I thought, has taken a step back this year, but he's still a good player. And entering year 3, I'm going to have high hopes next year. Savon Revel, Benjamin Morrison, all intriguing young guys. Marvin Grant, of course, I like as well. But again, we're going to have to make decisions in terms of paying guys. Grant, Revel, and Morrison are all not under contract after next year. Colin Wright, we might have to make a choice on soon as well. So safety definitely could be a position we're going to look at, given that we haven't really figured out the solution at free safety, rotating in Savon Revel and Javon McIntyre. I do like our day 3 pick from last year, Jonel Aguero, but I don't necessarily want to count on him being a great player. We'll start at the cornerback position. The Broncos have not shied away from drafting corners early. Pat Surtain and Colin Wright were both top 10 picks. Now, since they're both on the roster, we're probably not going to do it again with a guy like Caleb Beasley. But it is worth it for whichever team decides to do it. Beasley really broke out this year as a junior. Terrific ball skills, terrific athlete. He is sticky in man coverage. The one thing with him that I don't like compared to some of the other highly drafted corners in this series is that I think he's going to be a little bit more scheme dependent because he's not a great zone player. Guys like Malik Muhammad, Colin Wright, Avion Terrell, even Kobe Bryant from season 1. I thought they were all probably a little bit better as prospects because I think you can put them in any scheme. For Beasley, I think he has to get to the right situation, but if he does, he could be one of the best corners in the NFL. You cannot teach 6'2", you cannot teach 4'3" speed, and you cannot teach his stickiness in man coverage. Robert Stafford, a 4-year starter at Miami, leads all active college football players in interceptions with 18. He's picked off at least 3 passes in all 4 seasons with the Hurricanes. He's really undersized, though, 5'11". He's added some weight since the 175. He's probably in the 180s. That's still pretty small, though, and I think it limits what he can provide in press man coverage, and it hurts his ceiling versus someone like Caleb Beasley, who's a lot bigger, a lot more physical. But Robert Stafford is battle-tested. He's matched up against some of the very best receivers in the country over the last 4 years. He's played more football than anyone at this position, and if there's anyone who's going to be ready to go, despite being small, it's him. Jalen Mbakwe from Alabama, we got to see him in the playoff where he was quite impressive. Stole the show against LSU with 2 interceptions, including a pick 6, the only touchdown Alabama scored in this game. He got the game-clinching interception against Kansas the following round and was really solid in coverage against TCU in the championship, winning him the college football playoff MVP. You know how hard it is to win the playoff MVP as a defensive player, especially considering his quarterback had one of the best statistical seasons of the last decade at the position? All the narratives would suggest that Eli Holstein should win the playoff MVP, but no, it still went to Jalen Mbakwe. That's how good he was. He's a little undersized as well, 5'11", around 180, so similar to Robert Stafford. I think he's better in zone coverage than some of the guys we went over. I think he's a little more consistent in man compared to Stafford. Picked off 7 balls this year, of course, including the 3 in the playoffs. As we look at the day 2 guys, I like Carl Williams Jr. out of Baylor, 6'1", around 200 pounds, big, long, physical corner. And if teams are looking for guys with size, say past the 15th pick, if Williams went before Stafford and Mbakwe, I would kind of understand it. He's a really good zone player as well. I think he's one of the more scheme versatile corners in this draft. That's what we're going to look as the focus for a lot of these defensive backs, especially at corner, is that many of them are very scheme dependent. But that's not going to be the case with Williams. I think he'll be successful anywhere. Teams do not throw the ball his way, and because of that, he only has 3 interceptions over his Baylor career. It's not for a lack of ball skills, though. It's that teams do not target him. He's the real deal. Behind him, Des Ricks, former 5-star. He's developed really nicely. Jarvis Lee, small school guy, University of South Florida. Undersized, but really, really good. Curly Reed from Washington. I think he's going to be a plug-and-play guy in the slot. Highly instinctive around the line of scrimmage. Derek Rogers Jr. from Purdue. I think he's best suited to play safety, but he does have the athleticism to stick at corner. Michael Mormon from Maryland. Really fun player to watch. Picked off 3 passes last year as a junior, intercepted 8 this year as a senior. That led the FBS. He's got some of the best ball skills in this entire class. I wish he was more consistent in coverage. He's not great in zone. Another guy who's going to be kind of scheme dependent, but you cannot teach his ability to track the football and make a play on it. There's going to be some coverage busts, which is why he's projected more so in this second round. I know it's lazy to throw out the Trayvon Diggs comparison, but Michael Mormon is a similar play style. Romel Lewis Jr. from Arizona State, another ball hawk. Earl Culp from Purdue. I think he's raw but really athletic, only 21 years old. Ellis Robinson, former 5-star recruit. He's bounced around at 3 different schools, but really found a home at Boston College. And then looking at the late day 2 sleepers, I like Ashton Stamps. LSU transferred to Texas A&M. Him and Des Ricks have formed a really nice duo. And then into day 3, some names to watch here include Jordan Matthews from Tennessee. Started as a freshman, was demoted as a backup, got his starting spot back this year where he was really solid. Jeremiah Anglin Jr. from Pitt's a good player. Eric McMattison from Michigan. He's going to be a really good slot guy. He's not the most athletic, but I think he's going to be a good pro, carve out a role in this league for a while. As we move over to safety, at free safety, you've got 3 very different players. With Brandon Jacob, I think he's got the best combination of size, traits, and production of the group. Jaquan Patterson from North Carolina. He's extremely versatile, extremely athletic. He's going to put on a show at the combine. I don't think he's a traditional center field free safety, though. I think he'd be better fit probably in the nickel. I think he'd be a really good nickel corner, very good man coverage player. And then Kerry Brown from Minnesota, who's probably the most productive of the group. Little undersized, around 5'10", 200 pounds, but he is the guy you can trust as your center field safety. You can run cover 1 with him and have him back deep and not have anything to worry about. He knows how to track the football. He knows how to track vertical routes. Just because he's small doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to manage himself with physical receivers. He's matched up with big tight ends in the Big Ten, and he's fared pretty well. Really good ball skills, a lot of interceptions with him. So just because he's not the biggest and not the fastest doesn't mean he's not going to be a good pro. I think his upside might be a little less than those 2 guys we talked about earlier, but he's a 4-year starter who's played a lot of football, and he's been a really good player since he was a freshman at Minnesota. There's a lot of film on him, and he has an extremely high floor. After him, you've got Taylor Davis, a 2-year starter at Kansas, who I kind of always viewed as a career backup and was never going to be a pro prospect. But from his redshirt sophomore year to his redshirt junior year, he improved drastically. Won a starting spot at safety and has not looked back. 8 interceptions over the last 2 years. Good ball skills, good run defender. For a defense that was very inconsistent in terms of tackling, I thought he was one of our better tacklers. Pretty good size, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's a pretty average athlete. I wouldn't say it's a weakness of his. I don't necessarily think it's a strength either. He does allow some big plays here and there. That's the one weakness with him, but I thought he got a lot better in terms of not getting beat deep from his junior year versus his senior year. And I think the consistent improvement he has shown year in and year out with Kansas should lead to NFL teams really liking his linear development path. Behind him, Gabe Tahir from Boise State, another guy who's really productive and has played a lot of football. Coy Beasley from Purdue. There's a lot of Purdue defensive players in this class. They've done a great job at churning guys out. He's really small, but very athletic. And then at strong safety, 4 top 100 guys, but the name that obviously pops out here is Damani Maxson, one of the best safety prospects of the last decade. Although it's kind of funny, he's never really played safety. In his first 3 years at Kansas, he was a sub linebacker, and I thought he did a really good job there. But we wanted to use him a little bit differently here as a senior. I wanted to keep him as close to the line of scrimmage as possible, but I wanted to use him more in coverage for our sake and his sake. I felt like we needed him in coverage because our corner room was not the deepest, and he's not going to play linebacker in the NFL at 6'1", 200 pounds. He's going to have to play in the secondary, so we moved him into the nickel where he was extremely impressive. Terrific ball skills, terrific instincts around the football. College football's leading active tackler. This guy's played more football than anybody in this draft. 4-year starter who's never missed a game at Kansas, and he has been as reliable as it gets. Double-digit TFLs 3 out of 4 years. He didn't do it this year because he wasn't a linebacker. He played in the slot. Despite that, though, he's someone who can line up anywhere on the defense, and he'll be productive regardless. Good size, good athleticism. There's no weakness with him. The only question is, what will his regular position be in the NFL? But he's a versatile player who I would certainly be willing to take a chance on if I was an NFL defensive coordinator. He should be a top 10 pick, and if he falls out, some of those teams will seriously regret it. Behind him, you've got Kylan Jackson from LSU. I thought he was really good in the 2 playoff games. Interception against Florida State, multiple TFLs against Alabama. Peyton Woodard from Oregon, very productive starter, high floor guy. Teron Nichols from Kentucky, super athletic. Not a high floor guy, but I think he does have a high ceiling. So there you go. We have now gone through the entire draft class. We've gone through all the defensive players today. I'm excited to go back into the offseason and see where all these guys end up. I'm especially excited for our Kansas Jayhawks. Certainly Takaius Brinkley and Damani Maxson going in the first round. 2 of our team leaders, 2 of the most productive defensive players in Kansas history, multi-year team captains. I'm super confident that both of those guys are going to be studs in the NFL, and hopefully the rest of our Kansas Jayhawks will as well. But for now, we're going to leave the draft on the back burner, and all our focus now is on the end of the year, making the playoffs and going on a run. We've got to punch our ticket to the dance first, though. We have not clinched a playoff spot with 1 week to go. In terms of matchups around the league, we want the Titans to lose for possibly seeding purposes. The Raiders and Chiefs, we definitely want to lose so we can try to clinch this division. The Jets is a big one as well. They're the 9th seed. They're only a game back, and they beat us earlier in the year. I think a Jacksonville loss helps us as well. The funny thing about the AFC, though, is we could finish as high as the number 1 seed. We would need a lot to go our way, but it is possible. Speaking of number 1, that's what's on the line today for the Cleveland Browns. With a loss, they clinched the number 1 pick. They're certainly in an interesting dilemma because, well, they have a lot of picks going forward from the Dylan Raiola trade up that the Dolphins made last year. And credit to Miami for sitting him the whole year and getting him ready, a full year under his belt to probably be the starter next year. As for Cleveland, what do they do going into the draft? Because just 2 years ago, they had the number 1 pick, and they drafted Cade Klubnik, who was a can't-miss quarterback prospect. And, well, they might be replacing him. He's not a total liability, and he's gotten a lot better this year, but some of the other quarterbacks in this class, such as Alex Orji and Avery Johnson, have developed a lot better than him. Jordan James and Kansas legend Sevion Morrison lead the backfield. Tet McMillan headlines the receiving corps with David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy still here. Overall, though, this roster is not good. Other than Myles Garrett, their next highest rated players in 87. I do like the youth they have on defense, which includes Travion Ford, their first rounder this year from Kansas, who was one of the lone bright spots on this team. I thought he had a pretty good rookie year. This team needs a lot of high-end talent, though, and 5 first-round picks over the next 3 years certainly will not hurt them. Bo Nix apparently is frustrated. We haven't gotten Genty the ball. We did promise that during the bye week that we would use him more in the receiving game. The problem is he got injured the very next game. So we haven't been able to get him the ball because he hasn't been on the damn field. Of course, Genty should be healthy if we make the playoffs, but we've got to make it first. Our season is on the line. The Browns with a loss can clinch the #1 pick. Could it be a quarterback? Sam Onatulu or Eli Holstein would be in play. Do they stick it out with Kate Klubnik? Pick a guy like Connor Litneski from Iowa. As for the Broncos, so many different scenarios can play out. As the 5 seed right now, we can move up a lot, we can move down a lot. We could miss out on the playoffs if we lose. We could clinch the #1 seed if we win. We've got to take care of business, though. Focus on what we can control. Control the controllables, and that's this game right here, right now, against the Browns. 2nd and 8 up the middle. Teteroa McMillan with the first down, hit quickly by Javon McIntyre. Good start to the drive, though, for Cleveland. We need the defense to perform well. We need these guys to step up. There's a nice play. Oregon on Oregon crime. Jordan James wrapped up by his former Duck teammate, Jeffrey Bossa. 3rd and 10 now at around the 43. Klubnik will look to throw it. It's going to be a screen, and the Broncos read the play perfectly. Bossa was ready to blow up the screen. The pass rush quickly in the backfield. Good start defensively, and now that'll bring out Bo Nix in the offense. It's been a weird year for Nix. The first half of the season was up and down, started the year slow, but then he really picked it up. Looked like an MVP candidate at points. Over the last few weeks, though, the turnover rate has skyrocketed. We've got to keep the ball away from the defense as that one is incomplete. Hit hard on 3rd and 8. Mike Hall Jr., the former second rounder out of Ohio State, who's developed really nicely, brings him down. Jordan James loses yardage on 1st and 10, wrapped up by a couple defenders. Jeffrey Bossa leads the way. He has been awesome so far and is already in the zone. They'll go to James again. He is wrapped up once more. Mykel Williams leads the charge. Bossa was there. I think Aleem McNeil was too. And it's 3rd and 12. Klubnik looks to throw it. Dances around under pressure, and he is sacked. 12 and a half on the year for Mykel Williams. He has been really solid this season. He's off to obviously a great start today. Back-to-back tackles for loss. And the Broncos get it back. A defensive start. Who would have thought? Bo steps up in the pocket, looks to outrun Myles Garrett, but he coughs up the ball, and it's picked up by Cleveland. Sonny Styles recovers the fumble, forced away by Myles Garrett. As I've said, the turnovers have been the problem with Bo, but I think we might have dodged a bullet here because the booth is going to review it in real time. I'm not so sure that ball came out, and as you can tell by the replay, his knee definitely was down. So this play will be reversed. A huge break for the Broncos. We're going to keep the ball and get a chance to really reset here in what's been not a great start offensively. 2nd and 6. Nix up the middle. He's got Marvin Mims. It's been a disappointing year for Mims because, well, the best ability is availability, and he hasn't been available. But when he's been on the field, he's been really, really solid. 3rd and 5. Nix looks to throw it. They're going to go right back to the crosser. Marvin Mims beats Emerson by about 6 steps once he caught the ball and turns it into a great play after the catch to the 23-yard line. Denver now really starting to get some mojo here between Nix and Mims. Play action. Wide open short. It's Harold Fannin. Jukes away from the defender, and he brings it to the 7-yard line. Nobody was there to cover the left side of the field. He definitely was not the initial read, but hey, that works too. 1st and goal. Travion Henderson walks it in for a Bronco touchdown, his 11th of the year. It's pretty crazy to think about that Ashton Genty only scored twice this season. I don't really think that's a fault of Genty or a plus of Henderson. We've just happened to use Trey more around the goal line, but still kind of interesting. Klubnik scrambles. He will not get the first down. Does not want to mess with Javon McIntyre, and honestly, I don't blame him. 7-0 through 1. Got to be very encouraged with the production we've gotten defensively, especially considering their inconsistencies over the last few weeks. The offense started slow, but really ever since the fumble that was called back, we looked a lot better, had that really nice touchdown drive, and we'll see if we can do it again. 3rd and 9 to start the second. Nix having trouble finding someone open. Up the middle, he's got Fannin to the 50. Harold Fannin is about probably 35, 40 yards away from hitting 1K. He'd be the first player in this series to do it. Marvin Mims has got 900 in each of the last 3 years, but never 1,000 as Devin Bush is in for the sack. Real ones remember him as the Dragon Killer last year. We sucked against Devin Bush when he was with Seattle. It's going to be a holding on Rasheed Walker, so the sack will still count. And that'll make it a 3rd and 14 with Cleveland declining the penalty. It'll be a screen. Harrison Whaley to the left side. Runs into his lineman, Francis Mauigoa. And he only gets around 10. A good stop there by Cleveland. Renardo Green leads the way. Acquired at the deadline this year from San Francisco. And the Browns have it back. Klubnik sacked at the 1. He didn't see it coming. Benjamin Morrison brings him down. And now Cleveland has to avoid the safety. They are still going to try to throw the ball here. 5 wide on 3rd and 13. Klubnik nearly sacked. Somehow gets out of it and throws it away. But it's another 3 and out for the Browns. 4 drives, 13 yards today as an offense for Cleveland. Those guys on that side of the ball look like they want the number 1 pick. And a major credit to Denver's defense, who's been lights out through 15 minutes. Nix from the 43. He will connect with Fannin again. We're really trying to make sure he's able to hit that 1,000-yard milestone. He's had a few really nice first downs today. From the 45, Nix, short throw. It's Tez Johnson with space to the right. Whoop! Jukes away from the safety, and he gets 31 yards. A big gain for Johnson, who is also pretty close to 1K. He's probably about 30, 35 yards away after that catch. 1st and goal. Nix goes short. He's got his main man, Marvin Mims, in the end zone for the first time, I think, since like week 1. 2nd touchdown of the year for Mims, and Denver makes it 14-0. We have more points, 14, than they have yards, 13. That is pretty bad. Cleveland back with it from the 33. Up the middle, there's a nice play. David Njoku more than doubles their yardage total for the game. He gets it to the 45, and the Browns have it past midfield. Following play at the Denver 45, Klubnik looks to throw it, going deep, wide open, it's Elijah Moore, who walks it into the end zone for a touchdown, and we might have ourselves a ball game. Cleveland's offense was a no-show through 4 drives, but they pull out a couple big plays, including a 45-yard score, and all of a sudden, it's a 1-possession ball game. Nix misfires on 3rd down. He was looking for Tez Johnson, and the Cleveland defense is there with a stop. They could theoretically tie the game here. We'll see if they can have a longer, sustained-out drive from the offense here in the 2-minute drill. As Cape Klubnik goes short, it's T-Mac, Tataroa McMillan, past the 35, a gain of 22. There is life into this offense. Here on 1st down, Klubnik steps up. Under pressure, he is sacked. Aleem the Dream, Aleem McNeil, brings him down, and the Browns are going to use their first of 3 timeouts. Down to 1:18, 3rd and 14 for Cleveland. Klubnik looks to throw it. Under pressure, he is sacked again. Mykel Williams, his 2nd of the game. The Denver pass rush has had its worst stretch of the year, but they have been outstanding here in the first half, especially the interior. 3 sacks total for Williams and McNeil combined, including 2 on that last drive. Denver back with it. Nix dances around, hoping someone gets open, looking downfield. He's got Tez Johnson! How did that work? The offensive line gave him all day, and finally someone was able to get open. It's a gain of 32 for Tez Johnson, who is just a few yards away from 1,000. 3rd and 8 at the 33 now for Denver. We're going to go play action. Nix looks to throw it, looking downfield. Mims is open, but it is overthrown. So Denver's offense stalls, and we're going to have to bring out the field goal unit. Will Lutz on to kick it from 50. It is up, and it is right down the middle. Overall, a pretty productive first half. Wasn't perfect. I feel like the offense could have been a little bit better, but it's hard to complain about 17 points. We're up by 10. We're doing our job so far, but we cannot take our pedal off the metal as our playoff lives are on the line. Let's take a look at our halftime report around the rest of the NFL. The Chargers headed to Cincinnati. The Bengals fighting for a wild card spot in the AFC, but the Chargers lead it 14-6. Oddly enough, even though us and the Bengals are only separated by 1 game, it doesn't really matter how Cincinnati plays here because we beat the Bengals earlier in the year. So no matter what, we'll finish with a higher seed than them. So it doesn't really matter if the Bengals win or lose. I guess I'd rather not see them in the playoffs because Joe Burrow is really good, so a Charger win probably does help us, but not in terms of seeding. You know who would benefit us to lose? Tennessee. Unfortunately, they did not. Alex Orgy in the Oiler uniforms played terrific. The Titans end up beating the Dolphins 37-21. And with that, the Tennessee Titans win the AFC South. They are headed back to the playoffs. And if the current seeding holds up, we would be headed to Nashville next weekend to play against Orgy, Elijah Badger, and the gang. That'd be a fun matchup if it holds. And then in Chicago, the Chiefs clinch the AFC West with a win. However, the Bears are giving them trouble. 21-21 at the break. Feels very reminiscent of the Chiefs game last week, so maybe our defense doesn't have to feel so bad. Their defense has really struggled as of recent, though. Caleb Williams and the gang playing really well. The Bears with an outside shot of making the playoffs in the NFC. You know, I never thought I'd really say this, but this is maybe one of the 3 days a year that I root for the Bears, so bear down, I guess. That really hurt to say. It's better than saying the Packer phrase that I will not say, because if I do, it's going to get clipped and used against me. I already know you suckers. That'll bring us to the second half. Again, the offense has been good but not great. 16 of 23, 197, and a score for Bo Nix. I want to run the ball more. We haven't ran it poorly. We just haven't ran it a lot. We slowed down a little bit defensively, but overall a really good first half. Just got to keep doing what we're doing. After 2 holding penalties, 1st and 24, Nix takes a shot, and he got injured on the play. Garrett Nussmeier is in as he's incomplete on 3rd down, nearly intercepted by Devin Bush. You know, I was hoping to play the backups in this game a few weeks ago, but not with these circumstances, and we'll check on Nix's status in a moment. Brown's back with it. James goes backwards. Baron Browning brings him down. That'll make it a 3rd and 8 for Cleveland. Their offense has started to show some signs of life after doing nothing for 15 minutes. Klubnik under pressure, and he will throw it away. Nearly brought down by Nick Benito and friends. Garrett Nussmeier will lead the offense out on the field. The good news for Bo is it's just a few cramps, and we hope he'll be back in a little bit. As Henderson has it down the field, one man to beat. Does not get by Grant Delpit, but a good run there for Travion Henderson, 7 carries, 71 yards. Bo Nix is back in under center for the Broncos as he goes up the middle for Marvin Mims, who gets around 8. I don't know why Nix missed the first play of the drive and then came back in. Seems kind of odd, but I'm not going to complain. I'm just relieved that he is healthy. The last thing we need for a potential playoff run is to not have Bo Nix. On 3rd down, looking deep, and he misfires. Marvin Mims was able to get open, but the pass was low and at his feet. We could go for the 57-yard field goal, but instead I think we're going to punt it away. We're going to try to pin him back deep. The Browns struggled near their own end zone earlier in the game. And oh my goodness, that is as good as it gets. What a punt by Jake Camarda down at the 2. We'll see if Cleveland can respond. Here's James, finds a hole to the left, and he's able to get the first down and plenty more. The Browns now out of safety territory as it's a gain of 16 for Jordan James. From the 20, Cade Klubnik looking to call a switch at the line, and Njoku goes from in line to out wide in the slot. As Klubnik goes up the middle, he's got Teteroa McMillan breaking tackles. Great play after the catch, and it's a gain of 22. Number 5, the 5th overall pick back in year 1 out of Arizona. With a holding penalty, it's 3rd and 18 now. Klubnik looks to throw it. He's got a man open. It's Elijah Moore. Breaks the tackle from Bassa and gets the first down. That is inexcusable. He had about 5-6 seconds to throw the ball there on a 3rd and 18, no less. You cannot let them convert there. 3 minutes to go in the 3rd. A big loss of around 3 yards for Hunter Lipke. Wrapped up by Baron Browning, who's a little shaken up. Speaking of injuries, the Browns running back room has been decimated. Jordan James got injured. Sevion Morrison got banged up. The 3rd string running back got hurt. So now we are down to their fullback, Hunter Lipke. 3rd down up the middle. Another first down conversion. This time it's Teteroa McMillan, who's had an impressive half. Another Cleveland Brown injured, though. These two teams are dropping like flies in the 3rd quarter. 2nd and 3. Klubnik rolls out under pressure. He is sacked. Aleem, the Dream, does it again. We paid him a lot of money, 3 years, $99 million, and he has been worth every penny. A risky decision that has really paid off in our favor. 3rd and 10. Klubnik is going to go short. He'll go to Lipke. That's not going to be enough for the first down. It's only a gain of 7. Jeffrey Bassa brings him down, and that'll bring out the field goal unit. The Browns with an opportunity to make it a one-score game. 37-yard try is up, and it is good. 17-10. Cleveland's not out of it. I was hoping we would have a comfortable lead by now, but going into the 4th, even though we've been the better team, we've been in control the entire way, we're only up by 7. Game's not over. We've got to continue to try to take care of business. Was an ugly third quarter, but the Browns only cut the deficit by 3 points. We still have the lead by 7. We still have the ball, although we're looking at a pivotal 3rd down. There's Fannin up the middle, throws the defender off of him, and gets it to the 48-yard line. We haven't scored on either of our 2 second-half drives yet. This feels like a really big time in this game to get some more points. Another 3rd down, 3rd and 5. Nix up the middle, short throw. Good catch by the rookie out of Alabama, Ryan Williams, who gets it to the 40. That goes for another Denver first down. We're 2 for 2 on 3rd down this drive. Let's see if we can get another. 3rd and 3. Henderson up the middle, bounces off a blocker, and they will give it to him. Didn't get it by much, but Travion Henderson does keep the chains moving, and then he throws the ball off of the defender's back. They could have called that a penalty. We're lucky they didn't. On 1st down, nice grab. It's Chris Brezel to the 11. We needed a big drive from the offense, and that's exactly what we've gotten. We're moving it nicely at the 2, 2nd and 1. We'll see if we can punch it in, add some more points. Look to make it a 2-score game. Nix drops back, finds room, runs it in himself. Bo Nix, his 9th rushing touchdown of the season. The Denver Broncos make it a 2-score lead, our biggest drive of the year. We come up big, and now we are firmly in the driver's seat with 5.5 minutes to go. We'll see if Cleveland can pull a rabbit out of their hat. Remember, again, with a loss, they get the number 1 pick as David Njoku gets it to around the 40. Defense, I just need one more drive out of you guys. You've been consistent for the most part all day long, but I need one more. From the 47, Klubnik, plenty of room up the middle. He'll tuck it and run. Nice gain for Cade Klubnik as he gets 18 yards, bringing it to the 29-yard line. They're moving no huddle. They know time is of the essence. Play action on 2nd down. There's a big sack. Baron Browning, 6th of the game for the Denver defense. And it's now 3rd down and 5. Klubnik looks to throw it, scrambles to the right, looks to run, and he will get the first down. Outrunning Nick Benito and friends, and Cleveland keeps the chains going. Here at the 2-minute warning, 3rd and 6 from the 14-yard line. Now for the Browns, still trying to make it a 1-score game. Klubnik drops back, scrambles to the left, tucks and runs again, and he does not get the first. Great tackle by Michael Williams. They're going to have to go for it here on 4th down and 2. Play action, looking to throw it back in the end zone, picked off. Benjamin Morrison with the interception, and he'll look to follow his blocks down the field. There he goes. Benjamin Morrison has likely sent the Broncos to the playoffs, showboating, and stopped at the 1. And a 106-yard return that does not end up as a touchdown. That's got to be one of the longest non-touchdowns in NFL history, but still a huge play by Ben Morrison. And now we're kind of in a weird spot because I just want to chew the clock. Problem is we're at the 1. So we're going to be a little unconventional. Henderson's going to dive down. I was hoping the Browns would not call their timeouts and we could just kneel the game out, but they want to call those timeouts. Okay, I see how it is. 3rd and goal. Travion Henderson breaks a tackle, spins away, and he's in. Trey Henderson scores for his 2nd time today. I think that's number 11 on the year. And the Denver Broncos lead 31-10. The silencer to send Denver back to the playoffs. Cleveland with one more 4th down. Klubnik up the middle. That ball's out! And it's picked up by the defense. Javon McIntyre forces the fumble recovered by Jeffrey Bassa. And a turnover is what ends it for good. Now, I'm not so sure Elijah Moore was actually knocked down before he fumbled it. His knee very clearly hit the ground. The booth is going to review it. I don't really think it matters, though, because even if it's not a fumble, there's still going to be a 10-second runoff that goes off the clock along with the remaining time after the runoff before Cleveland snaps it. So they might not get another snap off anyway, and sure enough, they don't get back to the line of scrimmage in time, and this game is over. The Denver Broncos are headed back to the playoffs. 31-10 your final here in Week 18 against the Cleveland Browns, who officially clinch the number 1 pick in the 2028 draft. Samona Tulu, Eli Holstein, Connor Letneski. The opportunities are endless for the Browns. While as for us, we don't have to worry about the draft yet. We get to think about the playoffs. Extra football for the Broncos. And sure, it was certainly an up and down season for us. We're still not playing our best ball. We've still lost 3 of 5, and we didn't play a complete game today. But we punched our ticket to the dance, finishing the regular season at 11-6. Bo Nix did what he needed to, and he avoided mistakes. That was the biggest thing. No turnovers. As for Cade Klubnik, I thought he had some good throws, but he wasn't overall efficient. Trevion Henderson played pretty well. The Browns' run game, meanwhile, was kind of mediocre. Marvin Mims played well, 7 for 82 and a score. Harold Fannin eclipses the 1,000 yards mark, while Tez Johnson, I think, was 2 yards away. We couldn't get him the ball in the second half, unfortunately. McMillan, Moore, and Njoku all played pretty well for the Browns. Jerry Jeudy was quiet, though. Francis Mauigoa had a great game at guard, while Tree Babalade shut down a guy named Myles Garrett. I kind of like the idea of keeping Babalade at tackle and Mauigoa inside. The problem is, where does Quinn Miners fit into the equation when he gets back? I thought the pass rush was really good. Benjamin Morrison had a great game with a sack and an interception. And best of all, nobody got hurt. So we don't add any injuries going into the playoffs. And remember, Ashton Jeanty will be back for the wild card round. He's been hurt, I believe, since like week 10, week 11. It's been a while since we've had him in the lineup. So 11-6 puts us now as the 5 seed. Again, we could finish as high as the number 1. If the Chiefs do lose to the Bears, then we could win the division. If they beat the Bears, then we're kind of stuck at number 5. So across the league, we already know about the Titans result. The Ravens lose to Seattle. That could help us in terms of seeding. The Chiefs lose to the Bears. And with the Raiders winning, it's a 3-way tie in the AFC West. Buffalo beating the Colts clinches them the number 1 seed, but we could still be as high as number 2. Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud, Barrett Carter, and Junior Colson win the Players of the Week. So I'm not going to spoil what happened in terms of the seeding yet. Again, with a division win, we would be the 2nd seed with our tiebreaker over the Ravens. We could still be 5 or 6, though, depending on the tiebreakers. Remember, we did split with both the Raiders and the Chiefs. As we wrap up the episode, though, I am going to go through our stud and dud of the year candidates. Of course, there is a Google form in the comments section. Remember, this is not necessarily the 3 best and the 3 worst players. It's an expectations-based award. And as we go with our first candidate, I'm going to pick Bo Nix. He took his game to another level that I didn't know was possible after his first 3 years. I thought he was a little up and down second half of the year, but after we made the coordinator switch in week 4, our offense was able to unlock another level. Led the NFL in passing yards, almost 5,000. Granted, that's probably because of his high volume. But he ran for 9 scores. He threw for 33 more. Finished in 6th place for the MVP. And for the 21st highest rated quarterback in the NFL, that sounds pretty good. And he deserves a boost as a result. I wanted to pick a skill position guy, and originally I was going to do Harold Fannin, over 1,000 yards. Kind of unexpected. But with him being an 85 and having superstar development, I decided to go in another direction. Trevion Henderson played really well once Ashton Jeanty got injured, and the whole idea of getting him was so we could have those two as a duo. Jeanty got injured, Trey Henderson had to become the starter, and I would argue he's been a little better than Ashton Jeanty. I think he's been a little more efficient, he's been a little better in the red zone. Jeanty's still going to be the number 1 back going into the playoffs, but Trevion Henderson's going to carry a big role for us going forward, and these two guys are hopefully going to continue to complement each other nicely. Nonetheless, Henderson certainly outperformed his rating. He certainly outperformed the trade compensation we sent to the Bears, and he deserves to be a stud of the year. As for our last spot on the defense, I thought about Mykel Williams. I thought about Aleem McNeil. Both of those guys were quite solid this year. But ultimately, I decided to opt for one of our corners. When Chris Abrams-Drain got benched, We slid Benjamin Morrison into the slot, and he's been really good. Over his first 2 years, he didn't get to play a lot, but when he was in there on special teams and when he got limited reps defensively, he was quite good. We made him the starting slot corner with Abrams Drain struggling, and he was really solid. I like to call Morrison the creator of chaos. A lot of TFLs, a few sacks, forces multiple turnovers, 91 return yards per interception is pretty cool as well. That'll bring us to our dud of the years. It really hurts me to do this because Marvin Mims is really good, but he missed 10 games this year and he's missed 20 over the last 3 seasons. That is unacceptable. The guy's a really good player when he's on the field, but he is not consistently on the field, and we're certainly getting buyer's remorse at this big contract that we gave him. As I've mentioned before, it doesn't make sense for us to trade him. He's not a liability when he plays, and he has more value to us than anybody else, considering the high cap penalty we would take by getting rid of him and the lack of trade compensation. He's a good player who just needs to play more. Nick Benito and Baron Browning both put up disappointing numbers. Benito's been the better player. He's put up the bigger sack numbers, but I feel like Baron Browning has been consistently more disruptive, and I've held him to a higher standard. I've put him in the stud of the year race more, and because of that, I feel like we have to hold him to that same standard and list him here for the dud of the year. Sack numbers and TFL numbers went down despite the fact that he missed time over the last couple of years. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't as good as he's been. As for our last spot, the secondary was inconsistent. It's hard to point fingers, but for the 5th overall pick, I was a little disappointed by Colin Wright. I thought he had a really good rookie year, and he was a little bit worse at everything this year. He wasn't as good around the line of scrimmage. The ball skills went down. He hasn't intercepted a pass since week 1, and I don't think he's been a bad cover player, but he hasn't taken the leap I would have hoped for after what I considered a really good rookie year. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Make sure to vote for the stud and duds of the year in the description. Next time around, we're going to see who we're playing in the first round. We're going to see where we're playing. Do we end up winning the division, or will it be as a wild card?